We have just had the biggest inflection moment since original ChatGPT moment.
Can I guess?
The promise of AI is real. So is the challenge of making it work in your organization. Welcome to The Path Forward, where we explore the future of work in the age of AI. I'm pleased to be joined by UiPath CEO Daniel Dinez and CMO Michael Atalla. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, man. Good to be here.
All right.
Yeah.
For everybody who's tuning in, for everybody who may know us as a certain kind of company, Daniel, you invented RPA. Who are we today?
I haven't invented RPA. It was a movement, but I think we have led the RPA movement and eventually we won a big category. But I would say from the beginning, our vision was that RPA, it's our gate into the big enterprise ecosystem. Because we always wanted to be a provider of end-to-end process orchestration and automation to provide the substrate that companies can build their entire work in a way. Today, I think we are much closer to that initial vision. So we started with RPA. We moved fairly soon after our RPA foray into API automations. And the power that we brought to the table was that we combined in the same package API and RPA. And by RPA, I largely mean the capability to do UI-based automation, clicking, typing.
So emulating a human. On
Emulating
Yeah.
a human
Yeah.
directly. And then we moved into document understanding. So I say it was an itch, higher into the cognitive layer. But first we've been into semi-structured documents, where we use more what I call precision machine learning. And then if I continue on this axis, we moved into long unstructured documents, which are fully based on generative AI. And then that was on a task-based. We had to make a big decision. Are we gonna take the same technology that made us successful in RPA and leverage it into process, or we are coming with something new? And we made, I think, the bold decision, let's go and build a new one. And we built it on the top of, I think, the state-of-the-art workflow engine that exists today. And we've built on the top of it a surface that connects kind of business users that can describe processes and developers that can further author these process descriptions into automations delivered into this package. So that was our foray into process. And now we are moving further away into describing a process as case and stages, or states, if you want. It's a more dynamic way to describe a process.
in a way that maps better the way a process actually looks in a business.
And this was how I think naturally humans scale. Within stages, there can be dynamic actions that depends on the context. Moving from stage to stage, it's also dynamic. But once you represent the process as this, it gives you a lot of power. So we've built, this is more like a scaffolding on the top of this workflow engine. It's a representation.
Yeah.
And now, if I talk more about cognitive, so where we went into the cognitive piece on both tasks and process dimension. On tasks, we started like 3 years ago to bring AI agents at the task level. AI agents that, like RPA, can emulate the action piece of a human. The AI agent can emulate the judgment piece, where, things like analyzing a long document, coming to conclusions, opinions,
Trying to decide
summarizing.
that little edit in the corner of a document, that little word on the side in the margin. What does that mean? What should it mean?
Yeah,
Can I
is
make
it
an assessment?
relevant
Is it
or not?
relevant or
Yeah.
not? Where
Yeah. So we come with these AI agents, and we build our own framework, like low code, but we also, as always, we wanted to keep our platform open. So In our platform, it doesn't matter how you build your agent, but we are ready to host it, to manage it, to govern it, to secure it, and pair it with actions. And we are really the world-class specialists into actions. And an agent that cannot take an action, it's not really an agent. It's just a chatbot.
Yeah.
And we have this platform that is capable to deliver these agents in a more unattended way. It's a huge difference. And I think we need to point this to our enterprise customers. That's a very big transition that we can help people to manage. And this is what I have developed internally, my own framework of thinking of the AI adoption. So I see AI adoption like a 4-stage framework. In stage number 1, it's more AI is just providing answers to some questions. So it's a chatbot.
It's a productivity tool.
It's a productivity tool. It's
individually.
it's initiated individually.
Sitting and waiting for someone to call on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Second stage, the same person initiate a discussion with AI, but they expect that AI can also take actions. AI can use tools, can read your internal documents, can use tools to do something, actually, if you allow them to do. So this is a powerful new construct, I would say. I think many enterprises will go to this stage 2, but it's still human initiated.
Right.
What we can do is help them progress to stage 3, which is when the agent is not initiated by a human. So many discussions are right now about huge investments in AI, but nobody's seeing in the bottom line.
Yeah.
You will have to take chunks of one person tasks and move it in a fully autonomous, unattended way.
Or chunks of the business, like whole business workflows.
Maybe I would say this is stage 4 in my framework, where because in stage 3, I think the paradigm is agents propose, humans decide, automation execute. In stage 4 is agents propose, and agents decide when to ask a human for approval for an exception or not. And if not, they will call the actions. So it's an even more difficult framework to put. You have to build way more trust. But that's the stage 4 when we are seeing more of an autonomous delivery of work for enterprises.
There's a lot of things I want to sort of pick at there, but I think the biggest one is you introduce the idea of an ecosystem. Primarily, I think most people think of ecosystem as sort of the way you would describe, where you have automations, you have agents, you have API, but do people think about ecosystem? And I guess it's probably a good question for you, Michael. Do people think about ecosystem as a partner-led or a collaboration between other companies to enable you to build an ecosystem?
It's sort of yes and yes for any customer. Well, actually, any company to be successful in this era of AI, it is unquestionable that they must first and foremost recognize that it is an ecosystem that is required. I mean, there will always be, in every evolution of the tech industry, there has been a set of companies. Today, they might be the cloud providers or the hyperscalers or the line of business application providers who will lead customers to believe that they, in fact, can be a comprehensive solution that solves all the problems of the world on their stack. And they may even innovate to a degree that on their stack, they are quite compelling. But the reality in upper enterprise and regulated enterprise and large business in general is that there is no on just your stack. There is always the full ecosystem. There is the cloud, multiple cloud providers, multiple line of business applications. And then there's the reality that enterprise workflows, like the one Daniel's describing, cross all of those boundaries. However a customer approaches this, there must be a solution for addressing that full ecosystem, which is one of the things that we have specifically set out to address at UiPath, right? We have specifically committed to an ecosystem platform. We have built the relationships across the industry. We have partnered with companies that some people use the word co-opetitive, right? The ones that could probably compete with us in some areas, but in really important ways are key partners of ours.
Yeah.
We're willing to participate in an ecosystem like that. I think that's how we choose to bet on certain partnerships, and the amount of technology investment we make in those partnerships is not insignificant, and it's costly, but it's the right way to build a platform and a set of capabilities that will solve real customer problems.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, for me, having been doing this for long enough, I know what lies on the other side of making someone use one and only one solution. You wind up with tons of legacy tech, you have a lot of tech debt, you have stuff that people are using more because they couldn't scale to your business. Like, these are the things I think that we're talking about, which is like why a focus on orchestration, a focus on an open platform is a better, different approach. And I think for a lot of people, it's probably an assumption that like other technology things in the past, you can just jump from stage 1 to stage 4. It's just that easy. It's not though, is it? Talk about why it's not that easy.
People have, I think, the wrong perception. A more capable AI that can be thrown into the business will suddenly start to work. I think that's the wrong.
That the model gets smarter.
The model gets smarter,
Yeah.
and therefore the model will start to behave more like a human user. And I think people don't realize few limitations of AI that I don't think they can scale with just more, throwing more GPUs in training. Because think about, AI doesn't have a self in itself. I know it sounds a bit philosophical, but when you ask a question to the AI, there is no self that exists in between the calls. You ask a call, you get an out, where is the self? In humans, there is a self that is important in how I think businesses operate. Our self gives us the stake in the game. We are trained since very, very early age to understand what mistakes mean. AI have no understanding what a mistake means. You have skin in the game. You cannot train an AI. AI doesn't understand the pain of losing something. It doesn't. You understand a wrong decision maybe can cost us, the public opinion can be unrecoverable.
Yeah.
Right? So that's a very important limitation of technology and I don't see AI going there, not with the current architecture, not by the scaling laws. And there is another very interesting limitation that you can observe there. And it's related somehow to this one. When the actions that AI have to take have consequences, costly consequences, AI kind of doesn't work well. Because how these big models reason, they're fantastically great of composing, of understanding different domains and composing, synthesizing.
Into an average.
Into an average.
Yeah.
They are an averager of everything.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult for them to trace the consequences because they need to see the outcome of an action to compose, to understand it's good. So they predict the next token, they predict the next action, but they cannot go and further imagine the consequences very well. If you want to make AI successful, you need to create an engineered environment where the actions don't have so big consequences. You cannot let AI running at wild in your enterprise. What does it mean for an enterprise perspective? It means building a substrate that very well defined. These are my business entities. These are the actions that someone can apply to a business entities. These are the implications. These are all the actions should have audit rates, should have security. Who is allowed to do? Who is allowed to approve an invoice? An agent should know this. It cannot operate if this knowledge is not fully captured and documented. That this is what I mean by an engineered environment within how the work is delivered. AI cannot work because of architectural limitations. So Our customers will have to build this substrate. And then it's very important to understand the workforce transformations. I think some companies tend to jump into let's create like a big reef, because that in turn will create the force, the energy internally to go and adopt AI. I think that's also wrong, because you risk of letting go key talent that is required to deliver AI.
To build the substrate.
To build the substrate.
You need the knowledge.
So you need to make sure that you build the work, you build the substrate, you see the productivity AI, you understand what are the human traits that thrive into an AI native world, and then you go to the workforce transformation. People that are passionate about a company, that they have skin in the game, that they are like cultural bearers of the company, people that are loyal. To me, even if the AI is gonna render some of their output completely futile, they still are extremely valuable, and you have to redeploy them in other parts of the business, because they are part of the structure. And that's true for the junior pipeline. People right now stop hiring juniors because obviously that's the simplest work. But I think you sever your company of a very important pipeline of senior people that will continue your culture, will continue who you are. AI is not gonna give an identity to a company. It's the people that will go there, and you have to take them from the beginning, grow them, in the spirit of the company.
And I think your entire premise that there needs to be a substrate across your company that is both technological and human is predicated on the idea that you can't allow any piece of your technological substrate or your human substrate to be lost. You have to find a way to retain it. And that requires young people that will replace those of us that leave the workforce, because there is a natural attrition.
Right now, I think it's useless to have a junior developer and ask them to build something that AI can build. Why? It's completely wasted. But what's not wasted? The mentorship is becoming even more important. You need to mentor junior people into what does it mean to work with AI? What does it mean to have a taste? What's good or bad in the software choices? People will have to make a lot of choices.
This is not just simply a technology moment. This orchestration moment is like a true transformational moment. Like it's across everything. So if you were to sort of place us, UiPath, and then place our customers in that moment, where are we? Where are they? What road are we? Are we on the same road? Are we aimed at the same goals?
I think if you look at the pure AI camp, when they say orchestration, they mean agent-to-agent orchestration.
Yeah.
Like having a conductor that is overseeing a swarm of agents there. When we talk about orchestration, we mean like process orchestration. And that means orchestrating all the actors involved to deliver an outcome for the business. What are the actors involved? It's the people, obviously. It's the workflow itself that has to pass through different stages to progress. And the automations, the actions that that you have to take, and business systems that are there. You need to understand how you connect to them. I can imagine it working on a task level process, even like in coding. Right now, I can have a conductor agent that can create many sub agents that can do different parts of when I build an application in parallel. But that's a one-person task. Once you have this description of processes, it's very easy to bring agents. Agents at the process level. I have a patient that has to go to have a surgery in a day. When they are admitted in the hospital, they go to a registration desk. So there is the registration stage, okay? They will be asked different questions and check different things. Some things are common, like checking the insurance, for instance. Some other are specific to their type of surgery, right? It's not so easy to define in rules. but you can define as a list of actions that you have, and there is the desk, the human at the desk that will oversee this. From this registration, they go into like pre-operatory. There is also some people should check their vitals. Depending on what they are doing, there will be more or different type of work, right? Again, difficult to completely express in rules. So there is a person in the registration desk. Now I can bring an agent, but agent understands now I have defined the substrate of the registration desk, the rules. Now it's much easier for an agent to take some of the tasks that a person would do.
Right. Both because you have defined the case, because you have defined the stages, because you understand the
actions,
handoffs
exactly.
and the actions that need to be taken, because of all those things.
And then now, and imagine in each stage, you can have a dedicated stage agent that understands the stage. And it's more or less, again, in my example, there will be different people. There is a different, one person is the nurse that is taking the vitals, then it's the doctor that is conducting surgery, and then post-surgery, there is another nurse that is doing, all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So you have an different agent on each stage, but you also need to have a case agent on the top. Someone that understands the entire trajectory of a patient.
Right. Because you're basically, you're defining orchestration as like, this is not a either or. This can be an and situation where you have regular process orchestration where it runs the same way every single time, and then you have the case, which is, as you described, it's a case that either layers over on top or it's there when things give spin out or whatever. Like, that's an interesting, I need a better way, I think, to think about this than maybe the average organization maybe is thinking.
Except
like, you live in these places all the time.
Every business leader in the world, whether they can articulate it or not, knows this is how their business runs every day.
Right.
This is how their businesses run. Orchestration is about
this is what's happening on the
work
ground every single day.
But they have to make the work to formalize it in the substrate.
To use AI
If
effectively.
if they don't do it, AI is not gonna work.
Right. 100%.
But this formalization, this building of the substrate, I think it's essential to deliver AI.
And this
you cannot avoid it.
And what we understand and what we strive to do every day for our customers, I think that's what it comes down to. It's what orchestration is for us.
Yeah. No, it's a really powerful message, but it's also, when you break it down like it's a really simple way to understand it, is that this has to be the thing that's under there you're building everything on top of. And if you're not doing that, then like I said, you're agent to agent and you're not scaling, or you're living in a chatbot world and you're mistaking a chatbot world for an actual agentified world. It's not the same thing. 15 years ago, we're getting into the RPA game. 10 years ago, we're scaling the business. We're on this journey that we're on now. In this moment that we are right now, basically, is there another orchestration moment coming, or is this the beginning of the widening of the moment?
We have just had the biggest inflection moment since original ChatGPT moment.
Can I guess? Coding agents?
Yes. And that's to me, that was really, and it's a big illustration also on the case of automation plus cognitive. Because coding agents, it's first and foremost the hardness that drives the model, and they evolve kind of simultaneously. So I think this is the game changer for all of us. Not only internally, okay, we will develop our software faster, okay? But there is a very interesting and unintuitive development for the practitioners that want to bring AI and automation together. So they want to transform their processes. Look, we all know that building AI agents is not easy. So that all discussion was about building the substrate, delivering that. But what's becoming much easier is to build deterministic automations. That's fundamentally how the game is changed. Because it was when you build automation into a system, always the bottleneck is the ramification at the end of the systems that are it's many and very complex. Before coding agents, it wasn't. RPA kind of it filled a gap, but it stopped at some point because RPA also required a lot of automation engineers. You need technical skills, and they have a certain output in the end.
Yeah, they scale only so far.
But now imagine if we change from like months of development to days.
So we're changing what's possible because AI is now there because customers that effectively build a substrate across technology and humans, they will be empowered to do process level and case level orchestration in a way they could not before, probabilistic and deterministic. We are also able to go back to the technology that started it all and make it better, faster, and more complete solutions. So the end-to-end capabilities of what AI empowers customers to do with our platform is actually expands on both fronts, its origin and its new frontier.
And look, I think the pattern that is emerging is very similar to how humans operate. So when I do a piece of work, if it's novel work, I'm basically in an exploratory phase. When I understand how the work should do, I use a lot of my cognitive power, right? I do it a few times, the same piece of work, and then it's becoming routine.
Yeah.
And when it's routine, I'm not using so much cognitive power. I'm just doing on automatic pilot. I see kind of the same work evolving right now. A business user will use a smart assistant that can help them in the exploration of work. As they explore, they will create automations that can be run on demand. And then as we work, when I'm on automatic pilot, if something unexpected come in, I use my cognitive power and fix my routine, right? And next time I encounter the same situation, the routine will handle it. And this is kind of the same.
Yeah.
An automation runs an exception, AI raises, understand, fix the exception, commit in the routine, update the routine continues. It's literally the best architectural approach.
Yeah.
And you can get to, as our friend Raghu is saying, you will get to this tokenless automation, which is becoming, the cost factor is becoming very important.
Yeah.
So yes, it's very much AI driven, but to use AI to design automations, to run automations, to fix the automations, but the actual work will be carried by automations themselves.
I was setting you up so that you would mention coding agents, because it is fundamentally like it's one of the most transformative moments, at least that as long as I've been doing it. And there's stuff that I can see us having a future conversation about the redefinition of the word builder. Who gets to be a builder? How do they get to build? All that. And this is a whole different way.
That's
of
episode
with this. This is like
2 or 3,
2, 3, 4, 7 through 10. We could go all day. But I really want to thank you guys for doing this. This has been a great kickoff. Daniel, thank you for your time. Michael, thank you for your time. Look forward to seeing everybody soon, and we'll talk some more. Thanks for listening to The Path Forward. We'll see you on the journey ahead.